Good evening. Today is Tuesday, February the 13th, and it is 6:30 p.m. And I would like to call this regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. May I please have a roll call?
Delory,
Here.
Mata,
Here.
Stiegel,
Here.
Onken,
Here.
Shield,
Finally
James.
here.
Here.
Serrata.
Here.
Perfect attendance. Well done, everyone. We have a quorum. Item number 2, approval of minutes. Item 2.1, approval of Planning and Zoning Commission January 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes. We need a motion and a second to approve those.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Stiegel and a second from Commissioner James. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Oh, I saw your hand move back. I'm sorry. The second was Commissioner Serrato. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 3, citizen comment period. The Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comments from citizens early in the agenda of regular meetings. Speakers are provided with an opportunity to speak during this time period on any agenda item or any other matter concerning city business, and they must observe the 3-minute time limit. So at this time, I will open citizen comments. I will close citizen comments. Thank you. Item number 4, consent agenda. Tonight, we're considering the approval of the final plats for Trails at Windy Hill, subdivision sections 9 and 10. We'll need a motion and a second to approve those.
With a motion,
Yes.
I move that we approve item 4 consent agenda, including items 1 and 2.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner James and a second from Commissioner Shield to approve item 4, numbers 1 and 2. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item number 5, consider and possible action. Item 5.1, consider a request to construct an approximately 51,400 square foot hotel building located at 22497 IH 35, Country Inn and Suites, conditional use permit, CUP-23-0092. Ms. Sharp?
Kayla Sharp, City Planner for the record. So tonight we have for you a conditional use permit for a hotel building at 22497 IH 35. This will be a little bit familiar for y'all as y'all considered a exception for the height that was ultimately approved by City Council. So they will be allowed up to 58 feet in height. And they are seeking an exception to the I-35 overlay materials requirements. Just as a reminder, those requirements are 90% masonry for the entire facade. So the applicant is proposing materials that align with the hotel's branding, but the I-35 overlay requires 90% masonry materials consisting of brick, stone, decorative CMUs, textured and painted concrete, and then stucco and detail applications. What the applicant is proposing is approximately 80% hardy siding, 10% stone, and 3% wood and cast stone. And I kind of averaged that across the entire project, so some facades of the building are a little bit different. Maybe? Okay, here is the conceptual site plan. I will preface this with they do not have a site plan in review quite yet. They wanted to get through this before submitting that, but it will of course have to be compliant with the I-35 overlay and any other applicable zoning regulations. And then these black and white images are a little bit difficult to see. There are some colored renderings here in a second. So the west elevation will be the front elevation, and that will pretty much be facing 35, and then the east is the back of the building. And then the sides. And then here we start to get some of the colored renderings. So this request is, like I said, not compliant with the I-35 overlay, and so staff does not recommend approval. However, you have a couple of options in this case. The Planning and Zoning Commission has the authority to approve or deny materials that aren't compliant with the I-35 overlay. So in this case, your options are you can approve it as is, you can approve it with modifications, which would mean you voice what modifications you want made, and then staff can handle the final approval of those. Or you can table the request and request modifications be brought back to the commission at a later meeting, or you can deny. And if you deny this request, the applicant has the right to appeal if they so choose, and that appeal goes to the city council for consideration. So, and then I think after this slide, we also have the applicants here, and they have a few slides that they want to go through with y'all, if that's okay. Come up.
Good evening. My name is Ron Smith. I'm an architect and architectural engineer with Mays & Associates out of Dallas, Texas. Our firm specializes in hospitality work and restaurant work. We do a lot of work with all the national hotel brands, and we do a lot of work with some of the national quick service restaurants. Maybe you've heard of Chick-fil-A. We do all of those in the state of Texas. We're on Marriott's preferred list of architects. I'm here tonight to kind of ask for permission to build something to a national standard, to do a modern-looking country inn and suites by Carlson, in lieu of doing a 90% masonry by y'all's definition. This is a very nice building. I'm here representing DPN Properties, and we're here just to ask for your permission to allow us to bring what we think is a significant economic stimulating building to your community. We think this will be a great asset to the community. The site's located adjacent to the creek, kind of over behind the O'Reilly Auto Parts store. There are a number of retail components that are already built between I-35 and us. We're actually on kind of the road behind the I-35 service road. I bring to you that this is probably the highest and best use for this piece of land. The hotel, being given the variance for the height, will have some presence off I-35 but not occupying the frontage road, which is much more valuable. Generally, when you get a hotel to come to one of these environments, there'll be restaurants and other things and things sprout out around them. Looks like y'all have already done a great job in your community. There's a lot of things up and down the I-35 corridor. We're trying to up the game a little bit and have higher usage per land. This is the site plan. We've talked to the fire department. We've talked about the 50-foot easement for utilities in the front and the new sewer lines. There's been a number of things worked out with staff. Staff's been very professional and very good to work with. We have a local civil engineer that is working through a number of the issues with the site plan application and the plat as we're carving this out of a larger piece of land that was originally intended for a different purpose. This is the lot, kind of in red in the back. Like I said, it's not right on the service road. I think that it's probably the highest and best use for this piece of land. And I think there are some other applicants that are talking about developing things adjacent to the proposed hotel. This is just kind of some images of the buildings that are around. We're kind of directly behind the O'Reilly Auto Parts. A lot of these buildings have Austin stone or sticky stone or Luder's limestone on them. We intend to have an Austin white stone on the whole first level of the building. The stone's very much a big thing here in the Austin area. It's local, it's available. It's something that we think is regional that we support. I think everybody probably knows, the village area we're talking about, and the buildings in front of our hotel, I consider a lesser quality building than the building we're proposing to build behind. This is the rendering of the building we're actually proposing and has been custom designed for Kyle, Texas. You can kind of see that it's a very modern looking building. You may not know a lot about Country Inn and Suites by Carlson. They're a national hotel company that's been around for more than 30 years. They currently have 10 different brands. They have a number of properties up and down I-35 in Austin and in Temple. They've upped their game in the last 5 years, and they're really pushing for a more modern aesthetic. Originally, these hotels were more 3-story wood frame with pitched roof, and they're moving in a modern direction to keep up with some of the other brands. And they're very insistent and motivated for us to come here, but if we provide the building that is kind of their prototype and their new image that they're putting so much time and energy into developing. I've got a couple of images of this building. It doesn't show it real strong in the image, but the entire first floor is stone. And the upper floors there's a 2x4 concrete panel that is a James Hardie product. That's not listed on your agenda as a masonry product. And then the white portion of the building is a Hardie kind of lap siding. Again, it's a masonry product that is not listed as masonry by y'all. The advantage of this over, say, a wood siding or a lesser material is that it's fireproof. If the building next to us catches fire, the concrete masonry siding or panels will prevent fire from spreading into the building. This is an extremely safe building. It's very important that it's a safe building because people are sleeping here. It's a 4-story wood frame building with 1 hour construction, but it's fully sprinkled per NFPA 13, not 13R residential. They're not cheaping out on it. A full-blown sprinkler system, and we'll have fire department access all the way around the building. In the upper right-hand corner, you can kind of see that we've kind of got a Hardie panel that is 2 foot by 4 foot, kind of similar to what's on the Starbucks, only our product's a little better. I don't know what panel they have, but it doesn't look like it's a concrete board. It looks like it's something else. We want to do a true concrete board that's bug resistant, fire resistant, and is going to have a long life. This building's going to be in your community a long time, and we want to develop a great product that will be long lasting here. The owner owns multiple hotels. He's not a guy that he just recently sold some property and he's building some new property, but he's not going to build this and necessarily flip it. Generally, he builds hotels and he operates hotels. He has an operating company. They've done market research. The Country Inn and Suites by Carlson has identified this as a market that they think can hold a product like this. And we're trying to bring some economic stimulus. He thinks it's a great lot. It's not on I-35. It's just a little bit back, which you can do with a hotel as long as we have the visibility and are allowed to have the height and the signage. The back of the building has a swimming pool. It does have parking all the way around it. You know, with the hotel product, you're always kind of stuck with a window pattern. We try to bury some of the air conditioning and grills by making them the same color to enhance the aesthetic of the building. You can kind of see here a little bit that there's the horizontal lines of the Hardie vertical horizontal paneling, and then the blue component is kind of a 2 foot by 4 foot panel that is has a texture to it, and you know it's all about delivering that modern image and the modern aesthetic that the brand is really pushing, that they want to stand out from some of the other lesser brands. Again, around the door and the framing, we've got some wood elements that are made of a metal element, and of course we've got stone on the first floor. The other side of the building is very similar. Just to let you know a little bit about the brand, you know, this is a limited service brand. We're going to offer a free breakfast. These are from the brand imagery. You know, we will have a meeting room. This is something your community doesn't have a lot of. The meeting room's about 36 by 32 and will be great to hosting events. We serve a breakfast service that's free to our guests, and we have what we call a warming kitchen. We're not trying to be a restaurant. We want restaurants to pop up next to us. But it's real important that, you know, across the nation that we have this unified image of what the brand is, because somebody that stays in one in Amarillo, we want them to have an equal or better experience in Kyle, Texas. We are putting an exterior pool on the project. This is something the brand also likes, depending on the market we're in. We put it on the back side because we really don't want it to be right out there on I-35. And this kind of shows some of the more modern color schemes of the inside and outside of the building. We have fire pits and we have trellises outside the building to give it a little more ambiance and develop a sense of space of where this is at. These are flat elevations that just kind of show the height of the building. We do want it to have some variation in height. We don't want it to just be all one height. These are some images from Country Inn and Suites from across the nation. This is kind of their older brand as they did a transition. And then this is Smithville, North Carolina, that just recently opened. This building is very similar to what we're going to see here in Kyle, Texas. We'll have the Austin white stone on it. Our color scheme is a little bit different. Our canopy's a little bit nicer. Our pool area is a little bit nicer. There's been some upgrades to the exercise room and upgrades to the pool area that they didn't happen in North Carolina. But this is the image you can expect in your community. We're asking for your permission to let us bring this building with its concrete plank exterior instead of a solid concrete panel exterior to your community. When you look at the stone and the hardy board component, that's way over 90% of the building. But your building officials, their hands are somewhat tied. We have a set of rules of masonry is this, and they're enforcing the rules. We showed the client the regulations when we first started this design process, and we showed him some concepts with brick all the way up. And some of his responses were that he really wanted, and the brand is giving him an incentive to build the brand and its new identity. They don't want the old look. They don't want it to look like what they're not nationally advertising. They want it to look like they're nationally advertising. Additionally, you may not be aware, but when you say 100% masonry and you're doing a Starbucks, it's not as big of a deal because it's a one-story building. You're doing a Chick-fil-A, it's not a big deal. It's a one-story building with a lot of glass. When you're doing a 4-story hotel, your building code says I cannot stack brick taller than 35 feet. Once I hit 35 feet, I got to put in a very expensive steel frame, steel lintels, steel post, the entire wrap of the building to support any brick that is above 35 feet. This is more expensive than the brick to put the structural frame in place. And all it does is hold up the brick. This is not a cost that the developer is willing to absorb, and he really wants the look of the national brand. He wants it to look like what the commercials are going to show that are going to be saying, come to Kyle, Texas, to Country Inn and Suites. We think we can develop that. We're working with engineering. There's a few minor things in our plat. This set of plans in the chair here, this set of plans is ready. We've drawn it. We really want it to come here. We're asking for your permission to look at us as a modern product that is fitting for your community. We're asking you to look at the fireproof hardy panel as being a masonry product, as it is made of masonry, but it's just not by definition in your code. We're asking for your support. We want to be in Kyle, Texas. We want to bring jobs and opportunity here. We want you to have your meetings at our hotel, the meeting room, and bring in your caterer from the building next door. I talk real fast. I can say a lot more things. I probably missed some things we wanted to talk about. There are other examples like the Kyle Local Apartments that are just down the road that have stone on the building in the front, and then they have paneling, siding on the buildings in the back. The buildings around us have stone on the bottom and then something above once they get to 15 feet. We think we're bringing a great product. We think it's a good opportunity for Kyle, Texas to have a modern looking building. I'm here to answer your questions and to ask for your support.
Thank you. Are there questions for the staff?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Stucco and alternative.
The stucco alternative is something we could do. The advantage of the hardy product over the stucco product is the stucco product is much more susceptible to hail damage, and that's why the brand has gone to this concrete panel, because if you get a 1/2-inch hailstone and it hits this building, it's not going to impact it. If we could the owner might be willing to do a stucco wrap and do it in these same colors in stucco to have a similar appearance, but I think it's an inferior product.
So a cementitious fiber product.
This is a cementitious fiber product. It's not really fiber, it's a cementitious. There's not any wood chips or anything
No,
in it.
not chips, but fiber certainly. So it's not that new, that technology, and I have my own opinions about its use, but here's the situation we're in. The overlay has certain standards with which you're well aware, and they're fairly set standards. I was not around for the conversations that led to those standards. They had to reason. And I'm one of these old guys that says, if you don't understand the reason for something existing, you better check it out carefully before you change something. So in that respect, you know, I'm a little concerned about making a decision here at this particular moment. To go further with that, we approved unanimously, I believe, a variance for height for this same building, this same property. And that was no problem, in my opinion, and in fact, made that point before the city council, supporting a variance for height. However, what I learned at city council is that they had a very strong reaction to a variance of that kind even, such that if my memory serves me well, it was a 4-3 split vote to approve the variance. Now, where I come to at this point is things I don't understand, there's a reason for, okay? And number two, I understand the council's position previously on this, and coming back to them again, I'm not sure we would get a better response. That being the case, I'll turn it over to anyone else that has any questions and comments.
Commissioner Shield.
If you can go back, actually, to, I think it's the second to last slide, which had the different, that one, yes. So from looking at this, the gray material that looks like squares, what is that material all the way up?
That's a 2 foot by 4 foot concrete board product.
Okay.
It's painted, which is the same product we're proposing for Kyle, Texas.
It's the same product, okay? What is the square tile all the way up, the white?
I
Is that,
believe the white is not a square tile.
it looks, okay, rectangular,
It's probably a cementitious panel. Similarly, we're asking for a lap panel, which is what's in their prototype design.
okay, I would prefer this, because this doesn't look like lap wood panels. I know what you're saying, it's not wood panels, but if we could have something that looks more like this, because that looks like more like concrete stone at least. Does that make sense? So that it falls in line with our overlay, at least in appearance.
And I think our client would be willing to go from lap siding to the hardy panels with the reveals. If that was a condition of approval, I think that he would be willing to take that step.
Because I think that looks higher end, what's on this picture, than just lap siding, if that makes sense to
No,
you
I-
on there.
I respect your point, and I
That's
agree.
my personal opinion there. I thought this was all stone, because I looked at a couple of the pictures online, and, you know, it was saying about the brand, and I was seeing different, different facades, and in College Station, you have brick all the way up to 3 stories. And then in a couple of others, you have stone and brick all the way up. And so that's why I was like, well, if this is a brand, I'm seeing a whole bunch of different looks for it to be a brand.
Well, and the brand's been around for more than 2 decades. So it's evolved, and this is the new product they're trying to push and advertise. But originally, it was a 3-story pitched roof brick type building.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner James.
So as much as you have a brand, I think the reason that we put a lot of things in is that we also have a brand of what we want to see. And so I want to know, tell me a little about the discussions with yourself and the city about how you have attempted to come to a mediation point before coming to us and asking for a full, total, complete, not listening to what we were looking for.
Well, we did a pre-development meeting with the city, and we did a meeting where there was a lot of discussions about the utilities in the front and setting back the building to get the portico out of the 50-foot easement that was needed for the future sewer line extension. As far as the building materials, we did some studies with the client, and the client expressed to us that he wanted to stay with what the brand standard was.
I don't care about the client. What about with the city?
So if I can add to that, so we went back and forth a little bit, and especially after the council discussion with the height exception, we came back to them and had expressed council's opinions to them, and ultimately, you know, we don't want to bring anything to the commission that's not compliant. That's never our goal, but ultimately, if the applicant chooses to ask for the request for the exception, then we will bring it if that is their request. So there was some back and forth, and this was kind of the result of that.
There was a Teams meeting with the staff and ownership so that so ownership could make a direct decision.
Okay. Question number 2.
Hang on, before you go into number 2, let me see if anyone else wants to jump in with one.
Let's let Commissioner James.
Yeah, there might have been some stone added to the bottom of the building, and the course of it, or more coursing that wasn't there, but it's mainly focused on the first floor. And I think instead of doing the brand stone, we wanted to do something that's Austin wide.
I'm also aware that brands are visual things. They're not necessarily always the materials. If we were to deny this, how would you, why could you not make it look like it does right now with some other material?
I'm an architect, and I work for my client, and I can make that building look a lot of different ways with a lot of different materials, but I've been given a directive of what he's willing to do.
But so you're saying there are other ways to achieve it, if your client told you to do so.
Right, we could do ACM panels, we could do limestone, we could do a lot of different things, and the reality of it is by doing those things, it takes it from a $14 million building to a building that's well beyond that may not be willing to be achieved by his financial model.
Okay, I have one last one. You want to go back to the...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, in cases, you say you do, you've probably done this kind of thing across many different cities in Texas. So, when you come to a space like this, and we do say no, what have you done differently when we've said that we can't come to this sort of agreement, that this is what we're looking for?
Well, there's a couple of things that happen. We've had cases where we've appealed it to city council, and they've wanted the project. We've had cases where the owner has said, I'll pick the building up and move it up by 35, another location. He's not purchased this land. He has it under contract for purchase. We need to get this approved, and we need to get the site platted correctly in order for this to move forward. He's invested a lot of time and energy paying for architectural and engineering and civil engineering expenses, thinking that this is the best location, and he's wanting to invest in your community. But at the end of the day, if he has a financial model that doesn't work for Kyle, Texas, that's his decision. As the architect, I'm going to do what I can to make sure that his dreams come true.
And I'm assuming he's not here tonight?
He is not. He had other obligations. He's got young children.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to deny the applicant's waiver.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Shield to deny the conditional use permit, and a second from Commissioner Serrato. Is there any discussion on that motion? Commissioner James?
So I'm not for denying it, because this gives just a direct, straight approval process to council. I would like to see us come back and actually have a discussion. I feel like we've come to this point where we've gotten, our city processes have spoken about what council's looking for. The architect and the applicant, not necessarily you, it's your client, have come here against those sort of things and asked us for something that the city has asked, or the city has known would not necessarily be something that we want to approve, and also that council is not necessarily thrilled with. So I would prefer us table it and give them some time to talk before directly letting council overturn this decision, because I think it gives some cool off time to allow some of these things that we've brought up, whether it's like Commissioner to the right here about the specific like lap versus stone look, or like what materials are in them. I definitely think there's a compromise here without us directly going to council. I just see that.
Okay.
I'm willing to revoke my amendment, my motion and go with tabling. I'm willing to do that if the second is willing to. Okay.
I make a motion to table the request to be brought back to us at a later date.
I will second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Stiegel to table the request and be brought back to us. That's seconded by Commissioner James. What are people's thoughts on that? Vice
think-
Chair?
Little discussion on that. I think that's a good, I think that's a very well thought out option. It's unpleasant when we have two parties come to argue in front of us when it should have been handled outside of this room, and a solution be brought to us, not a problem. You created a problem for us. And so we're going to give you a chance to solve it with, and come to an agreement with staff.
But the issue with that is if I got direction from y'all tonight that if we went to a square look with concrete panels, or we went away from concrete board and went to ephes, and that you would be supportive of that, it makes the job much easier for us to come back with something that is amenable to you. If your solution is you're either going to do 100% brick on your building or you don't build in Kyle, Texas, that may be how it's perceived. And I don't think maybe that's what you're saying to me tonight. But staff doesn't have the ability to say hardy board is allowed because it is a cementitious board. Hardy board's allowed if it's 2x4 and modular. We'll allow ephes with tile appliques. There's a lot of things we can do that doesn't require the significant structural investment of having to support true masonry at 35 feet. So I would like to get some feedback on what the expectations is so that my client, who will view all this, and we'll have a discussion probably in the morning, can make the best decision on the direction that we should go with this project.
Madam Chair, I'm a fan of the Hardy products, Hardy board and Hardy siding. I think it's a fabulous structural product. The issue here is the look and feel of the building, and I think there should be some way to come to have the elevation look like a high quality product that fits within at least the color palette and look and feel of the overlay, and maybe it can be done with the Hardy products.
So that's the first
I think a lot of it's to do with texture. It's very difficult from a simple elevation to see what the textures are going to look like, to see how the color palette will work together. You showed, for example, some wood grain on the side and the front. I think it's wood grain. Is it wood grain or is it just brown?
It's wood grain.
Yeah, so that's nice touches. And so I think there should be a way to come to it. That's my thought. And you're quite right about the stucco being a less durable product than Hardy. Hardy's, well known in the construction industry, but it's just making it with the look and feel that fits in with the overlay. I know that's not a full answer, but I think there's a way to get there.
So that was the first person that mentioned he had a problem with color. Is there a problem with color?
So there, if I may, there is a small section of the I-35 overlay that gives preference to red brick and white limestone. So I'm assuming that's what you're referencing.
It is.
Okay. And then if I may again, the other thing with the hardy siding is it's not considered a masonry product. So if that's the feedback you want to give staff, that you're okay with more hardy siding, that's kind of feedback that we would be looking for moving forward.
Let me be clear, that's the feedback from this particular commissioner. No, I don't speak for the whole panel.
Commissioner James.
Yeah, the direction that I think that we should take this is this. I don't have any interest in what your financial models are or aren't. I have an vested interest in what the citizens of Kyle are looking for. And I respect the stance that you have to take representing your client. I represent clients all the time. So, and especially in settings like this, I completely understand where you're coming from. But if what the staff needed was to hear that we are more acceptable to Hardy Board, fine, cool. That probably solves it. I would say that, it's a very known product. We see it in quite a bit of spaces. There's some reasons why we don't use it in specific places, and this seems to be an okay use of it. Maybe. But I would also like a little more information from staff on that the next time we see you to make sure on that is why. Because when we make these kind of statements about what we want in a CU in our specific areas, like there is a big reason for it. I think Commissioner Stiegel said it well, which is that like we shouldn't take these kind of things lightly as we don't specifically know the reason for it. Because almost none of us were here when this kind of stuff was decided. And so that's the kind of direction I want to see is something you all can come to a little bit of a consensus with to come back. And even if you come back with it with a similar request, but something that is a little more together, we can then internally, we talk to folks on council, have a discussion that we at least gave it our all to get to where they're looking for as well. Because we serve as an extension of them. We're appointed by them. So I don't want to set y'all up for failure either when you get to council and hear something completely different.
Well, and I think our firm and our client are willing to work to make it better, but we don't want to work blindly. Right. If we know that panelizing it to squares, not doing siding, doing a different product, perhaps a little more stone can be put on some of the buildings. Mm-hmm. Maybe instead of 1 story, it goes 1.5 stories to make it have a little stronger stance. We can make some of those adjustments in alignment with our client's goals and bring it back to staff for approval. And staff's been very professional to work with, but it's kind of like, I can't tell you that's okay because they need y'all to give input. So that's, if Neil wants to change all the white to 2-inch foam with heavy reveals and high impact EIFS, that's something similar that could be considered, And that would give the building another material. You'd have siding for the darker color, EIFS for the lighter color, stone at the base, and that, it builds on itself, right?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, it seems that you're seeking very specific guidance, and again, this is where it's out of my realm. I actually personally prefer cementitious products where they're applicable, but that's not what this is about. And it sounds like you're asking for guidance in the use of some other panels or architectural materials, and I have no ability to make any judgments about that at this particular point. So this is why I made a motion to table this so that there is time to hash this out so we all have the best information possible to go forward with a decision. I know that kind of leaves you coming up with options A, B, and C or something for us to consider, perhaps. But I really agree with Commissioner James in that having seen what happened at council when I was last there, considering the variance of this property before, I think that it would run into some heavy fire to be looking at a variance substantially to the I-35 overlay and what the blowback from that would be, and it would be quite understandable. So if it was a 4-3 split then, we're getting into building materials now. We work with that more often here than they do, and I think that they would really just right off the cuff, have a uncomfortable reaction with the whole process. They wouldn't be having this discussion,
I can name three
is
of
my
them.
opinion.
We appreciate the opportunity to have the discussion.
Any other comments? Yeah, so I just wanted to say real quick, I do sympathize with the statement in the summary letter that, you know, there's the brand, you know, you're supposed to follow the brand identity. I do sympathize with that, but like they've said up here, our duty is to our city. And this ordinance has been in place for quite some time, as they've mentioned. I don't fully understand why Hardy Board was left off of that list. And I think it's nice to have this tabled for a bit so that we can have staff explore that and provide us with information. Maybe that helps us come to terms with what that reason was. So I don't think it's a bad looking building. You know, if we could get it to say a bit more Kyle, I'm always game for that. So I hope that during the tabling, you know, we can work on this some more. We, as in y'all, can work on this some more and bring it closer to compliance. Even if you can't get it perfectly to 90%, closer to compliance. I think it would be really nice having this product so close to our city and our downtown area. So, yes.
I agree. I've spoken to the fact I think this would be an attractive asset for the town and especially close to downtown. But you have to understand the local perception is that we're being overrun by development, and development of a kind that is with which people are not comfortable. Oftentimes they don't understand it, whether it's design elements, basic architecture, whatever it may be, they're uncomfortable with it. And the council may reflect that time to time because they hear about it. I hear about it. You have to understand that this is a community-wide issue. It's not just about this building and this location, that what informs our views and opinions has to do with the community at large and their sentiments. And frankly, they're very concerned about development overrunning this town and having a belief that those of us who have some trust in managing these affairs really aren't paying attention at all. And I want them to very much have an understanding that, in fact, we are paying attention.
All right. So again, the motion is to table the request and have it brought back to the Planning and Zoning Commission in the future. All those in favor of that, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, there we go. Thank you.
We'll work with staff. Do any of y'all want to individually be copied on some of the preliminaries?
They should not be covered.
Only staff.
Okay,
Thank you for your consideration.
thank you. Okay. Next, we've got item 5.2. Consider a request to construct an approximately 3,987 square foot restaurant building located at 21565 IH 35, Pollo Regio. Conditional use permit, CUP-23-0096. Ms. Sharp.
All right, Kayla Sharp, city planner for the record. Will get me again. So this is another conditional use permit. Oh, that went forward too fast. For a fast food restaurant located at 21565 IH 35. It's just a little bit north of the last project we considered. So I know this is a little bit hard to tell where it is, but it is, if you're familiar with where Marketplace kind of dead ends into I-35, it's across I-35 from that along the northbound frontage road next to the Windmill Center, if you're familiar with that project. So this will be a little under 4,000 square foot. That is not right. That's not a shell building. It is a restaurant building. My apologies. And the materials consist primarily of stone and brick with appropriate architectural features to accent the building. Here's a little bit more of a zoomed out map so you can kind of get a better idea of where it's at. And then black and white, again, these are a little bit hard to read, but the color renderings will be a little bit more clear. It's almost entirely brick and stone. And then has the appropriate architectural materials and the dumpster enclosure. Other side in the back. And then here is the site plan and landscape sheet. So, and then this request is compliant with the I-35 overlay, and staff recommends approval of this item. Any questions?
Very small question, but on the landscape plan, getting into the details of it, I see, as we have often seen before, 3 trees of different species, I believe, are all planted in one relatively small area, and these trees mature to quite some size relative to that area. Any thoughts on that particular, in that upper right part of the diagram there alongside the drive?
I'm not super familiar with these species of trees. Generally, if they fall under our list of approved trees, they're allowed. There's also, in certain areas of the site, there's certain requirements for, you know, like street trees, like how far apart they're supposed to be. And then, of course, you know, number of trees across the entire site. We do have to have landscape plans that are approved by a landscape architect, so I am assuming that they have done their job to make sure that those trees are compatible that close to each other.
Well, it's a good selection overall and everything. It's just a question about the practicality of that, actually, you know. In this city, so many new trees are planted, and quite often they're not spaced appropriately, and you see this overcrowding, and people think it's a trimming problem when it was a planting problem. But
I think that was an interesting question. I would like to hear Mr. Lutz's thoughts on that, because he knows a lot about trees. Lutz?
He is more of the tree expert than me.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I was doing some research on another issue. I apologize for that.
All right. So on the landscape plan, there's 3 trees that are closely placed together. The tree types that are listed are Mexican sycamore, Monterey Mexican white oak, and cedar elm. It's kind of hard to tell which trees are put together, but what do you think about those being able to grow together in a space that small?
Generally, it's my understanding that if they are planted at the same time and they are of the same size, they will naturally grow together and learn to adapt. If one of them does fail or die out, then at that point it's young enough that it can be replanted. It's generally where you're getting situations where maybe you've got an established tree in the vicinity and you're planting smaller saplings. Those larger trees may strangle out or kill out the smaller ones, but generally if you can put them in together, they should coalesce, but I can't predict that future. But if one of them were to pass or fail, then at that point we would just look at replanting, and obviously have to look at a different site because clearly there was an issue with that.
The city would enforce the replant if something were to die?
Yes, any required landscaping is part of our code enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Commissioner James.
So, looking at the site plan, I see one drive-through lane, one not drive-through lane. Is that fair?
I think that's accurate. There is, are you talking about the double drive-through lane around the building? There's, looks like
Yes.
there's,
So is one of these, is my assumption on this that one of these is a singular drive-through, or is this an extension double drive-through?
I am not 100% sure. Sometimes it's for fire access to the building, and sometimes it's a wraparound lane so people can, you know, get out of the drive-through lane and go around. I assume there could always be potential for a double drive-through lane, but to my knowledge, I believe it's just a single.
I think you got
I'm Brian Clopton with ID Studio 4, architecture engineering firm out of Dallas, representing Poyo Radio. That is for a bypass lane. They're a single drive-through
Okay, so it's a
operating.
single,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. We would need a motion and a second to take action on this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Shield and a second by Commissioner Serrato. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. There we go. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5.3, consider a request for an extension of an approved conditional use permit to construct an approximately 53,877 square foot hotel building located at 5887 Kyle Parkway. Extended stay hotel conditional use permit CUP-23-0075. Ms. Sharp.
Kayla Sharp, city planner for the record. Last one for me tonight, I promise. So this is an extension request for a extended stay America hotel located at 5887 Kyle Parkway. Here is the location. You can see since y'all last considered this request, the adjacent property is now under construction. So this is near the Hobby Lobby and Academy that were just opened recently, and the Waffle House going in next door. So y'all approved this request February 28th, 2023, almost a year ago. And construction is expected to begin in March of 2024. They're in the final stages of site development and building permits, wrapping those up as we speak. And so before we hit that 1 year mark where the conditional use permit would expire, since there is no work being done on the site currently, I thought I had more text after that, sorry. If there's no work being done on the site within 1 year of the approval date of the CUP, it expires. So to get ahead of that, they're requesting this extension as they plan to break ground soon. So just a little bit of a reminder, here is that site. It's, I believe, around 120 rooms, and nothing has changed since their last request. This is simply an extension to keep that CUP active. And their renderings. So CUPs, like I said, are valid from 1 year from the date of approval, and they have not passed 1 year, so this is an extension request instead of a new application. And we support this extension and recommend approval. Any questions?
Yes, Commissioner James.
So, explain to me what the assurances are that they will begin construction in March and not delay it in any sort of way.
So I will say, I believe we have a representative online as well, if you'll have any questions for them. They requested this extension and stated that they plan to begin construction in March or shortly after. I did go back and look at the permits for the site plan and the building permit, and they are very close to wrapping those up. So as far as city staff knows, as far as we've heard from the developer, they fully intend to begin construction as soon as possible once they wrap up those permits.
Commissioner Shield.
And how long are the extensions usually?
So it's generally we go another year. We have in the past done 6 months, but generally it would be for another year. And they pretty much just have to break ground and show active progress on the site. They don't have to, be fully open and operational within a year.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner James.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we gave a 6-month extension to the Waffle House next door, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we would need a motion and a second to take action on the item. Does anyone have a motion? Yes.
I move that we extend the CUP by 6 months.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to extend the conditional use permit by 6 months from Commissioner James and seconded by Commissioner Stiegel. Is there any discussion on that? Yes, James.
Yes, since I made the motion, I'll go ahead and talk in the for part of it. Yeah, I definitely think if they're going to break ground pretty soon, they don't need a full 1 year extension. Give them a 6-month extension. We've definitely seen how these have been kicked down the road before, and so I definitely want to make it to where we're able to get this in, but also not give them too much time in case that they decide they want to delay much longer, that they can for any reason in this process.
Any other discussion?
Hey, Kayla, this is Mario. You mentioned there was a representative from the hotel. Are they, would they like to discuss if they're okay with the 6 month? Or providing the explanation for the request?
Yes.
Time extension request?
Yeah, I believe they're online, if you have anything to add to that.
Yes, this is George Gonzalez. I'm with Southland Consulting Engineers. Really, we're very anxious to get started. The main reason has been easement coordination with the property owner to the north. When we're going through our construction drawings and preparing for this project, really the sewer that we're supposed to tie into is only 2.5 feet deep, very, very shallow to tie into. So we've looked at alternatives, worked very closely with the engineering department and the public works department, and we're extremely close to finalizing an easement going to the north that would allow us to get the gravity sewer to tie into in conjunction with the property to the north. I think we're probably at the 2-yard line on that one. On the opponent's 2-yard line, not on our own 2-yard line. So yeah, we're almost there, but as soon as we get that, we'll be ready to go.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And that can be done within the 6 month time extension?
It absolutely should be able to do that. Yeah, we're really
Awesome.
right there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? No. Okay, all those in favor of extending the conditional use permit by 6 months, please say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. There we go. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Ms. Sharp. That was a marathon. Item number 6, staff report. What do we have today?
Will Atkinson for the record, the planning director. Just a few items on this staff report. As we've stated the last couple times, we have the National Planning Conference from April the 13th through the 16th. That's in person. And staff will be flying out on the 12th and returning on the 17th. So if you are interested in going and you haven't talked with us yet, or you're beginning to talk with us, please continue to coordinate accordingly. We are presenting we have in a public notice as of Wednesday, tomorrow in the newspaper, a landscape code update. That'll be coming before y'all on March the 12th, and then City Council on the 19th. That was based on a discussion that Council wanted some further amendments based on more robust xeriscaping requirements. So we're going to be bringing that forward to y'all. Regarding the downtown master plan adoption, we did have this scheduled to be in the newspaper tomorrow as well. But after further internal staff coordination, we were actually delaying bringing that forward. We have some additional minor edits we want to make and some discussion before we bring it forward as well. And then the development code rewrite, we are going to have an RFQ for late spring 2024, which means we will post it for people to apply for qualifications to help us redo our entire code. So that's going to be pretty exciting. That's going to be a relatively long process. That's going to be coming forward to both y'all and the City Council, but it'll be a good one. So, and much needed. And that is all I have.
Are there any questions for him? Yes.
On the downtown master plan pushback, can you give us any feedback about what's going on to push it back?
One moment.
There we go.
For the record, Jerry Hendricks, Assistant City Manager. We looked at some renderings over the weekend at our council visioning workshop, and we'd like some time to just process those so that we can bring back a better recommendation.
Any other questions for him? Okay, well, that brings us to item number 7. Thank you. Item number 7, adjournment. As we have completed all the items on the meeting's agenda, there's no further business that can be discussed, so we are adjourned at 7:30.